Tonight, the lanterns of the medieval sea sway gently with the rhythm of the waves, and a quiet question drifts across the dark water. How did pirates sleep on wooden ships, surrounded by cold spray, biting wind, and endless night without freezing to death? Before the clash of cutlasses and the thunder of cannons, there were long hours of darkness when even the hardest sailors had to rest their bones and still their thoughts, wrapped in salt air and creaking timbers. If you enjoy slow, immersive stories like this, take a moment to like, subscribe, and leave a comment. Tell me where you're listening from. Perhaps it's late evening in the United States, the early hours of morning in Europe, a quiet night in Canada, or another corner of the world entirely. And what time the Sea of Sleep has carried you here tonight. Now, get comfortable, adjust your pillow, let your shoulders soften, and imagine the steady rise and fall of the ocean beneath you. With each breath, the shore fades, the ship steadies, and the story begins to unfold. The medieval ship moved like a living creature, rising and falling with the long, patient swells of the ocean. Its wooden hull, darkened by tar and age, groaned softly as waves pressed against it, sending vibrations through every beam and plank. Above deck, the night air was sharp and damp, carrying the scent of salt, rope, fiber, and old wood soaked through by years of travel. This was the world pirates knew best, not the bright chaos of battle, but the quieter trial of enduring the elements hour after hour. As darkness settled fully, the cold crept in. It slid along the deck in thin fingers, slipped through gaps between planks, and wrapped itself around ankles and wrists. There were no heated cabins for most of the crew, no roaring hearths to gather around. The ship was exposed on all sides, a small island of timber floating in an immense, indifferent sea. And yet, somehow, the men aboard survived night after night, voyage after voyage. Pirates learned quickly that sleep was not a luxury, it was survival. Exhaustion dulled reflexes and clouded judgment. Dangerous flaws on a ship where a single mistake could mean a fall into black water or a snapped rope under tension. So they adapted. They listened to the ship, felt its movements, and chose their resting places with care. Near the center of the vessel, below the main deck, the air was still and slightly warmer, protected from the worst of the wind. Here, the cold was quieter, less aggressive, like a distant whisper rather than a shout. The crew lay close together, not out of friendship alone, but necessity. Shared body heat made a difference, a subtle warmth that eased stiff joints and numbed fingers. Wool blankets, rough, heavy, and smelling faintly of lanolin and smoke, were prized possessions. Some men wore every layer they owned, boots included, curling inward to conserve what warmth they could. The ship rocked them gently, like a cradle built from oak and iron, and slowly, despite the cold, sleep came. Outside, waves slapped against the hull in a steady rhythm, and the rigging hummed softly as the wind passed through it. Inside the ship's belly, pirates breathed in unison, their chests rising and falling with the tide. The cold was still there, waiting patiently, but for now it had been held at bay by knowledge passed down through countless nights at sea. Below the main deck, the air changed. It was not warm in any comfortable sense, but it was calmer, shielded from the relentless wind that scoured the open deck above. The wooden walls, thick and dark with pitch, held onto the faintest memory of daytime warmth. Lantern light flickered softly here, casting long shadows that swayed with every roll of the ship, making the low ceiling seem to breathe. Pirates learned to read these spaces the way a farmer reads soil. They knew where drafts slipped through the seams, where condensation gathered and dripped like slow rain, and where the ship's own mass offered a fragile kind of shelter. The center of the vessel, close to the cargo hold and away from the outer hull, was prized. Here, the cold arrived late and left early, dulled by layers of timber and the press of stored barrels, ropes, and crates. Hammocks were rare on medieval pirate ships. More often, men slept directly on the deck or on rough mats made of woven rope or old sailcloth. These thin barriers mattered more than they seemed. Wood pulled heat from the body, but a layer of canvas or coiled rope slowed that loss, keeping sleep from being stolen too quickly. Some sailors stuffed spare clothing beneath their shoulders or hips, creating uneven nests that cradled them against the ship's gentle sway. The sounds below deck formed a lullaby of their own. Water sloshed faintly against the hull, filtered and distant. The timbers creaked and sighed as the ship flexed, responding to waves and wind. Above, footsteps passed now and then, boots pacing during a night watch, each step a reminder that someone remained awake to guard the sleeping crew. Before settling in, many pirates ate a small portion of salted meat or hard biscuit. It was not a feast, but it gave the body fuel to burn through the night, creating warmth from within. A swallow of weak rum or beer sometimes followed, not for comfort alone, but courage against the cold. Then, wrapped in wool and canvas, they lay down, letting the ship's motion loosen their muscles and slow their thoughts. Sleep came in fragments, shaped by the sea. A sudden wave might jolt them awake. A change in wind could shift the ship's rhythm. But between these moments, there were pockets of deep rest, heavy and dreamless. In those pockets, the cold retreated, and the pirates floated in a quiet place where the world narrowed to breath, wood, and the steady heartbeat of the ocean itself. The true secret to surviving cold nights at sea was not hidden in the ship itself, but worn directly on the body. Pirates did not think of clothing as fashion. It was armor against wind, water, and fatigue. Wool was their greatest ally. Heavy, coarse, and often itchy, it had one priceless quality: it kept warmth even when damp. In a world where spray-soaked sleeves and rain found its way into every seam, this mattered more than comfort. Shirts, breeches, and stockings were layered with care before sleep. A sailor might pull on a second shirt, turned inside out, trapping pockets of air between fibers. Socks were doubled if possible, and boots loosened but not removed, so cold planks would not draw heat from bare feet. Some wrapped spare cloth around their waists or shoulders, creating makeshift insulation where the body lost warmth fastest. Blankets told their own stories. Many were patched again and again, sewn from old sails or traded cloth, each square a memory of a past voyage. Canvas was stiff and rough, but it blocked wind better than thin fabric. When layered over wool, it formed a barrier that kept the night air from stealing warmth too quickly. Pirates learned how to tuck edges beneath their bodies, sealing in heat the way one might close the lid of a chest. The smell of these layers was strong salt, tar, sweat, and smoke mingled together, but it was familiar, almost comforting. It meant survival. Wrapped tightly, pirates lay shoulder to shoulder, feeling the subtle warmth of others nearby. There was no talk once sleep preparations were complete. Words wasted energy, and energy was warmth. As the ship rolled, the layers shifted softly, fabric brushing against wood in quiet whispers. Somewhere above, wind caught the sails, and the hull answered with a low groan. Inside the cocoon of cloth and canvas, breath slowed. The cold pressed in, but it met resistance at every layer, each one bought through experience and necessity. In this way, pirates did not conquer the cold, they negotiated with it. They accepted its presence, planned for its arrival, and gave it as little as possible to take. Wrapped in their many layers, they drifted into sleep, carried by the slow, endless motion of the medieval sea. Sleep at sea was never still. Even on calm nights, the ship was always moving, rising, dipping, and tilting in long, patient arcs. For those new to the ocean, this motion could be unsettling, but pirates grew to depend on it. The steady rhythm became a companion, easing tired muscles and guiding the mind toward rest. In the cold darkness, the ship's movement did what blankets alone could not. It soothed. As pirates settled into their chosen places, they positioned themselves with care. Lying crosswise could send a body sliding with every roll, so most aligned themselves along the length of the ship. This allowed the motion to rock them gently rather than jolt them awake. A coil of rope under the knees or a rolled jacket beneath the head could turn hard planks into something almost comfortable. The motion also helped with warmth. Blood flowed more freely as muscles relaxed, easing the stiffness brought on by damp air and long hours of labor. The body, no longer tense, conserved energy more efficiently. With each slow sway, breath deepened, drawing in air heavy with the scent of wood and salt, then releasing it in soft clouds that vanished into the shadows. Sounds blended into a continuous hush. The slap of waves against the hull came at regular intervals, neither loud nor sudden, like a distant drum keeping time. Rigging tapped gently against masts, and somewhere deep within the ship, water shifted in the bilge with a quiet, rhythmic splash. These noises formed a kind of ocean lullaby, familiar and strangely reassuring. Even the cold seemed to move with the ship. Drafts came and went, brushing over faces and hands, then retreating. Pirates learned not to fight these moments. A slight turn of the body, a tighter pull of a blanket, and the chill passed. Over time, the mind stopped reacting, letting the body handle these small adjustments on its own. In this constant motion, sleep became lighter but deeper in its own way. Dreams rose and fell with the waves, slow and indistinct, and as the ship carried them forward through the dark sea, the pirates rested not, in spite of the movement, but because of it. On cold medieval nights, warmth was rarely found alone. Pirates understood this without needing words. Below deck, bodies lay close together, arranged like pieces of driftwood gathered by the tide. It was not intimacy that drew them together, but practicality. Heat, once shared, lingered longer, and in the damp chill of the sea, every bit of warmth mattered. As men settled in for rest, shoulders brushed, boots touched, and blankets overlapped. The closeness created small pockets of warmer air, invisible but deeply felt. Breath mingled, rising and falling in uneven harmony, and the cold that pressed in from the hull found less space to take hold. Even those who preferred solitude during daylight accepted this nighttime closeness as part of life afloat. There was comfort in the presence of others. The quiet sounds of sleeping, slow breathing, the faint shift of fabric, an occasional sigh formed a gentle reassurance that the ship was alive with resting bodies. No one was truly alone in the dark. If a sudden wave struck or the ship lurched unexpectedly, the warmth and weight of nearby companions anchored each sleeper, keeping fear at bay. Experienced pirates knew where to place themselves within the group. The strongest sleepers, less likely to stir, often lay on the outside, forming a barrier against drafts. Newer or weaker men rested nearer the center, protected by layers of bodies and blankets. This unspoken arrangement had been shaped over countless nights, refined by cold and necessity. Even disputes and rivalries paused for sleep. Grudges did not keep the cold away, but shared warmth did. In the quiet, boundaries softened. The sea demanded cooperation, even in rest, and pirates gave it without complaint. As the night deepened, the combined warmth settled into the space below deck like a low ember. It did not burn brightly, but it endured. Wrapped in this collective heat, pirates drifted into deeper sleep, carried forward by the ship and by each other through the dark waters of the medieval world. Before sleep claimed the ship, there was often a quiet ritual, simple, unspoken, and shaped by long experience. Pirates knew that an empty stomach made the cold sharper, more demanding. So, before settling into their places below deck, many took a small portion of food, not to satisfy hunger fully, but to give the body something to work with through the long night. The food was plain and sturdy. Salted beef or pork, tough and dark, was chewed slowly until it softened. Hard biscuits, cracked and worn by time at sea, were soaked in a little water or beer to make them easier to swallow. The taste was dull, but familiar, and familiarity brought a kind of comfort. Each bite was fuel, meant to burn slowly as the body rested. A few swallows of weak ale or watered rum sometimes followed. The liquid spread a brief sense of warmth through the chest. Though experienced sailors knew it was fleeting, they drank sparingly, understanding that too much would only steal heat later. Still, the ritual mattered. It marked the transition from work to rest, from watchfulness to sleep. As digestion began, warmth stirred inside the body. Muscles loosened, fingers tingled slightly, and the cold seemed to pull back just a little. This internal heat worked alongside wool and canvas, filling the gaps where fabric could not reach. Pirates had learned this lesson through harsh nights. Those who ate slept better, and those who slept better survived longer voyages. After eating, crumbs were brushed away, mugs set aside, and bodies eased down onto waiting blankets. The ship creaked softly, acknowledging the shift in weight. Lanterns were dimmed or extinguished, leaving only shadows and the faint glow of moonlight filtering through small openings above. With food warming their bellies and the steady motion of the sea beneath them, pirates closed their eyes. The night was still cold, still vast, but it no longer felt quite so threatening. The ship carried them onward, and sleep followed close behind. Not every corner of a medieval ship welcomed sleep. Pirates learned quickly that where one lay down mattered almost as much as how. The wrong spot could mean a night of shivering, dripping water, or sudden jolts that tore sleep apart. Over time, each sailor carried a quiet map of the ship in his mind, marking safe havens and places to avoid once darkness fell. The lowest areas, near the bilge, were damp and cold. Water pooled there, sloshing with each roll, and the air carried a sharp, sour smell. Only those with no other choice slept close to it, and even then, they raised themselves on coils of rope or spare planks to stay dry. Moisture stole warmth faster than wind, and pirates respected that danger deeply. Above, near the center of the ship, conditions improved. Here, the hull was thickest, and the movement gentler. The cold still arrived, but it came slowly, softened by layers of timber and cargo. Barrels stacked nearby acted as windbreaks, and stored cloth absorbed dampness from the air. This space filled quickly each night, claimed by those who knew its value. Sleeping near the outer hull brought risks of its own. Waves struck directly against the planks, sending cold vibrations inward. Now and then, a thin trickle of water found its way through seams, leaving dark trails on the wood. Pirates who chose these spots learned to angle their bodies away from the hull, using rolled canvas or spare sacks as barriers against seepage. Above all, no one slept where they might be in the way. Ropes needed to run freely, hatches had to open, and crew on watch required clear paths. Sleep at sea was practical, shaped by the constant readiness for sudden orders. A pirate might rest deeply, but never in a place that would put the ship or himself at risk. Once settled, there was no shifting without reason. Movement disturbed warmth and invited the cold back in. so pirates stayed where they were, letting the night pass around them. In these carefully chosen places, guided by experience rather than comfort, they found rest enough to greet the next day. Fire was a rare and cautious presence aboard medieval ships. Pirates understood its power, but they feared it just as much. A single spark, if mishandled, could turn a wooden vessel into a floating pyre. Because of this, open flames were kept small, controlled, and far from sleeping spaces. Below deck, lanterns provided the only steady light. Their flames flickered behind glass or horn panels, casting a soft, golden glow that barely reached the corners of the hold. The warmth they gave was minimal, but it existed a gentle easing of the chill closest to the light. Pirates sometimes gathered briefly around a lantern before sleep, letting stiff fingers thaw and faces warm for a moment. Candles were used sparingly, often extinguished before true sleep began. The risk of a tipped flame or dripping wax near fabric was too great. Once the lights were out, darkness settled fully, deep and complete. Without light, the cold felt closer, but the absence of fire also meant safety, and safety brought a kind of peace. On especially bitter nights, when wind cut through even the thickest layers, pirates relied on shared heat and movement rather than flame. They shifted closer, tightened blankets, and trusted in their preparations. Fire could not follow them into sleep, but knowledge could. The smell of extinguished wicks lingered faintly in the air smoke, oil, and char mixing with salt and tar. It was a scent tied to rest, signaling that the ship had entered its quiet hours. Watches were set, lanterns dimmed above deck, and the crew below surrendered to darkness. In the absence of fire, imagination softened, shadows disappeared, replaced by uniform black. The mind, no longer distracted by flickering light, drifted inward, wrapped in cloth and calm. Pirates slept with the cold close but controlled, trusting the ship to carry them safely through the night. Sleep on a pirate ship was never absolute. Even in the deepest night, the vessel required awareness. Watches were set, and while some slept, others remained awake above deck, eyes scanning the horizon and ears tuned to the wind and waves. This rhythm shaped how pirates rested, creating a kind of shared consciousness that extended even into dreams. Those below deck slept, knowing someone stood guard. That knowledge eased the mind, allowing the body to relax more fully despite the cold. Yet part of the senses stayed alert. A sudden change in the ship's motion, a shouted command, or the snap of a sail could pull a sleeper back to wakefulness in an instant. Pirates trained themselves to rest lightly, conserving energy while remaining ready. The sounds of the watch drifted down through the planks. Boots crossed the deck above, measured and steady. Ropes creaked softly as they were checked and adjusted. Occasionally, a low voice murmured into the darkness, carried downward like a distant echo. These sounds blended into the background, becoming part of the ship's nighttime pulse. In sleep, these noises wove into dreams. Waves became rolling hills. The creak of wood turned into whispering trees, and the rhythm of footsteps matched the beating of a heart. The cold, too, entered dreams not as pain, but as a cool presence that sharpened awareness without breaking rest. When a watch ended, the shift changed smoothly. One sailor descended, easing into a warm place among the others, while another climbed into the night. The balance of warmth adjusted, bodies shifting just enough to accept the change. No words were needed. The routine was older than any single voyage. Through this cycle of rest and vigilance, pirates endured nights that might otherwise have drained them completely. Sleep came in pieces, but those pieces fit together over time, forming a whole. And as the ship sailed on through the darkness, its crew breathed, listened, and rested as one. On stormy nights, sleep became an act of quiet determination. Wind roared through rigging like a living thing, and waves struck the hull with heavy, relentless force. The ship pitched and rolled more sharply, turning rest into a careful balance between yielding to motion and bracing against it. Cold arrived with greater urgency, driven by spray and sudden drafts that slipped through every weakness in the ship. Below deck, pirates prepared differently on such nights. Extra layers were pulled close, knots retied, and loose gear secured to prevent sudden movement. Blankets were wrapped tighter, tucked beneath bodies to keep them from sliding. The air grew damp, and the smell of wet wood and salt thickened, clinging to every breath. Bodies pressed closer together, not just for warmth, but stability. The shared heat became more intense, almost palpable, as each sailor sought both warmth and balance from those around him. Muscles stayed slightly tense, ready to react if the ship lurched unexpectedly. Sleep came in shorter intervals, broken but still necessary. Above deck, the watch endured the worst of the storm. Their presence echoed below in the sounds of shouted orders and strained ropes. Each noise reminded those sleeping that the ship was being actively guided through danger. This knowledge allowed them to release some of their own vigilance, even as the storm battered the hull. When sleep did come, it was heavy and dreamless. The body, exhausted from bracing and adapting, took what rest it could. Warmth was conserved carefully, every breath measured, every movement deliberate. In these moments, pirates learned the difference between comfort and endurance. By morning, the storm might pass, leaving the sea quieter and the air clearer. Those who had slept, even fitfully, rose with enough strength to continue. They had held on to heat, onto rest, and onto each other through the night, and that was enough. Sleep at sea was as much about listening as it was about layering wool or curling under blankets. Pirates became attuned to the subtle rhythms of the ship itself, feeling its heartbeat in the wood beneath them. Each rise and fall of the deck, each gentle shudder from the waves, became part of a larger pattern that guided rest. To the practiced ear and body, the ship was alive, and understanding its pulse meant sleeping more soundly. Breathing played its own quiet role. Pirates learned to match their breaths to the ship's sway, inhaling as the vessel lifted and exhaling as it dipped. This harmony reduced tension, eased muscles stiff from labor, and coaxed the mind toward calm. Even when drafts slipped through cracks or the cold pressed in on wrists and ankles, the rhythm of breath and timber helped preserve warmth and focus. Below deck, small pockets of air trapped between barrels, ropes, and blankets became cozy alcoves. A pirate might tuck his chin to his chest, drawing the collar of a woolen shirt high, letting breath circulate in a personal sphere of heat. Sometimes, 2 or 3 men would huddle near the same spot, creating layers of warmth as blankets overlapped and arms touched lightly. The motion of the ship carried them gently, rocking each sleeper like a cradle, and the sound of steady, even breathing reinforced the sense of safety. The mind, trained by years at sea, could almost switch between light awareness and deep sleep. A sudden creak, a snap of a rope, or the distant shout of a lookout would stir a half-conscious recognition, but rarely fully awaken. Sleep was therefore both restorative and vigilant, a delicate balance that allowed the pirates to endure night after night. Even the cold, so persistent and insistent, became part of the rhythm. Its presence was acknowledged, layered over, and integrated into the sensory pattern of movement, sound, and warmth. The pirates slept not by ignoring it, but by learning to coexist with it, allowing their bodies to conserve heat while the mind relaxed into the gentle cadence of the sea. Despite the challenges of life at sea, pirates found small comforts in the familiarity of their chosen sleeping spots. Even if the wood was rough and the blankets worn, a well-known corner of the ship became a kind of sanctuary. Over time, the slight dips in the deck, the scent of a favorite barrel, or the subtle angle of the wall became markers that guided sleep before the mind fully let go. These spaces carried memories. Perhaps a sailor had once napped there during a calm afternoon, or huddled there through a sudden squall. The body remembered the contours of the planks, the placement of ropes and canvas, and even the way cold air slipped in from a nearby seam. Familiarity reduced the effort required to find comfort, allowing warmth to build more efficiently and rest to come faster. Pirates often personalized these areas in subtle ways. A folded blanket might become a pillow. Spare clothing tucked beneath the body created extra insulation. Small bundles of rope could prop up elbows or knees, offering support against the ship's slow, continuous sway. These arrangements were never elaborate, but they carried the quiet reassurance that, in a world of motion and uncertainty, some things remained consistent. Even during the coldest nights, these familiar spaces offered a psychological warmth that paralleled the physical. The knowledge that one's body fit snugly into a known nook, that nothing would unexpectedly slide or tip, allowed tension to ease. Sleep, already precious and fleeting, became deeper, heavier, and more restorative. Outside, the ocean continued its endless rhythm, waves whispering and wind humming through rigging. Inside, below deck, pirates lay cradled in the soft embrace of routine and memory. The cold pressed at the edges, but the combination of shared warmth, layered clothing, and familiar space created a protective cocoon. In this small pocket of the world, sleep arrived gently, carrying the body and mind through the hours until dawn. Even in sleep, pirates were rarely completely still. The ship's motion encouraged small adjustments, subtle shifts that conserved warmth and prevented stiffness. A rolled shoulder, a bend of the knee, or a gentle turn on the planks allowed heat to circulate through the body more effectively. These movements were almost imperceptible, woven seamlessly into the rhythm of rest. The ship itself seemed to guide these adjustments. As it rose on a swell, the body would tilt naturally with the deck, shoulders aligning with the curve of the wood. When it dipped, legs bent slightly to absorb the motion. Even in sleep, the body remembered balance, responding instinctively to the push and pull of waves. These small actions prevented heat loss and reduced the tension caused by hours of static rest. When multiple pirates slept near each other, movement was coordinated almost subconsciously. A shift in one body caused another to adjust, creating a chain of tiny motions that maintained both warmth and space. Blankets overlapped slightly, shared heat redistributing evenly across the group. Arms brushed gently, feet nudged, and each subtle correction reinforced the safety of collective rest. Breathing, too, adapted. In response to motion, the chest rose and fell in gentle harmony with the deck, inhaling with a tilt upward, exhaling with a dip downward. The body synchronized with the ship's pulse. This coordination eased the mind, sending calming signals that allowed deeper, dreamless sleep to take hold. Even the cold became less intrusive when movement was accepted rather than resisted. Drafts still found their way through seams, but by shifting slightly, curling a knee closer, or tightening a blanket, pirates minimized its impact. In this gentle dance between body and ship, sleep became both fluid and protective, a careful negotiation with the sea itself. The smell of the ocean was constant aboard a medieval ship, and it infiltrated sleep as deeply as any blanket or layer of wool. Salt hung in the air, mixed with the faint tang of tar, aged wood, and the musk of the crew. For pirates, this scent was more than a backdrop. It became part of the comfort of rest, a reminder that even in cold or darkness, they were surrounded by the rhythm of life at sea. Below deck, scents mingled differently. Damp wood, oil from rigging, and the faint aroma of food or drink formed a dense, familiar perfume. The air carried warmth and cold simultaneously, creating a texture that could be felt as much as smelled. Pirates inhaled it unconsciously, the mix of smells grounding them as sleep drew near. Even in the harshest weather, this olfactory familiarity brought a subtle reassurance. Occasionally, a sudden gust above deck pushed fresh salt air into the hold, brushing cheeks or cooling exposed hands. Pirates reacted with small shifts, ducking arms closer, adjusting blankets, or turning slightly to integrate the intrusion without fully waking. In this way, even the environment became a participant in sleep, offering both challenge and continuity. The interplay of smells and touch helped the mind drift. Salt and tar became a lullaby of texture and memory. The body, tuned to the scent of sea and ship, relaxed into habitual patterns, muscles loosening in familiar places. Even cold, damp drafts were less alarming when paired with the sense of safety and routine. As the night deepened, the mixture of smells faded into a subtle background, allowing imagination and memory to fill the space. Dreams moved freely, carried by the pulse of the ship and the lingering essence of the sea. In this world of sensory layering, touch, motion, warmth, and smell, sleep found its foothold, gentle and enduring. As pirates slept, the ship itself became a quiet companion. Its creaks, groans, and occasional thumps were not threats, but a soft, continuous hum that wrapped around them. The timbers stretched and shifted with the ocean's rhythm, and each subtle sound echoed through the hull like the slow breathing of a living creature. For those who had sailed long, these noises were soothing rather than alarming, familiar soundtrack for rest. The pitch of the hum varied with every wave. A swell lifted the ship, creating a low, rolling vibration beneath planks and feet. A dip followed, a softer sigh as water slid past the hull. Ropes tugged gently against masts, producing delicate metallic tinks. All of it blended into a natural cadence, a lullaby written by wood, water, and wind. Pirates attuned themselves to this soundscape. Eyes closed, they could distinguish the difference between a wave that would pass quietly and one that might jolt the deck above. The ship's subtle cues guided the body, helping it align with motion and conserve heat. Breath deepened in rhythm with the hum, muscles relaxed in time with the sway, and minds drifted into dreamless calm. Even the cold seemed tempered by this gentle chorus. Air seeped through the hull, carrying the salt of the sea, but the steady hum provided reassurance, a signal that the vessel was strong and moving steadily forward. The mind, soothed by the continuity of sound, allowed sleep to deepen, confident in the ship's reliability. With the hum as a constant companion, pirates felt both protected and connected. Each groan of wood, each faint ripple against the hull, reminded them that the ship carried them through darkness, wave after wave, night after night. In this soft, persistent song, rest became possible, even in the vast, indifferent expanse of the medieval sea. Sleep aboard a medieval pirate ship was not only a physical experience, it carried echoes of countless nights past. Pirates slept, surrounded by reminders of previous voyages, the rough patches of wood they had measured with bare palms, the familiar coils of rope, the smell of tar mingled with sweat and salt. These small constants, repeated night after night, created a subtle psychological warmth that rivaled the layers of wool and canvas wrapped around their bodies. Men remembered nights when the sea was calmer, when the moon cast silver ribbons across the water, and when laughter had echoed above deck. Even in the coldest storm-laden nights, Those memories offered comfort. The body recognized the textures of blankets and clothing. The mind recalled the rhythm of waves, the tilt of the deck, and the gentle rocking that had carried them through countless hours of darkness. Often, these memories were shared silently. A glance at a companion, a slight nudge when adjusting blankets, or the quiet shift of arms to make room for a neighbor reinforced bonds. Shared recollections of past journeys became an unspoken lullaby, each pirate carrying the echo of others' experiences into sleep. The warmth of these memories intertwined with physical warmth, forming a cocoon that eased tension and shivered away fear. Even dreams seemed shaped by this collective memory. Scenes of distant ports, calm waters, or adventures past played softly behind closed eyelids, moving with the ship's gentle sway. The past and present blended seamlessly, reinforcing a sense of continuity and security. Pirates rested knowing that, though each night brought its own challenges, they were not facing it alone. History, habit, and companionship guided them. Wrapped in layers of wool, canvas, and memory, pirates surrendered to rest. The cold was still there, persistent, but softened by the rhythm of shared experience. In this subtle, enduring warmth, sleep became deep, restorative, and quietly protective against the vast, indifferent sea. Even below deck, light played a quiet role in shaping sleep. Moonlight filtered through small openings or cracks in the hull, tracing silver patterns across barrels, ropes, and blankets. Lanterns, if still lit above, cast flickering reflections on the low ceiling and walls. These movements of light and shadow were gentle, almost hypnotic, and pirates came to understand their calming influence. Shadows shifted with the ship's rolling motion, stretching and compressing across the floor and walls. A flicker of lantern light might dance along a coiled rope or illuminate the curve of a fellow sailor's blanket. The interplay of light and dark helped the mind distinguish subtle changes in the environment without fully waking the body. Each movement became a cue for small adjustments, stucking blankets, turning slightly, or shifting a shoulder without disturbing the flow of sleep. For those new to the sea, such glimpses of light could be unsettling, but experienced pirates learned to read them as part of the rhythm of night. Moonlight spilling across the deck indicated a quiet, calm sea, while flickering shadows suggested gentle wind or passing waves. The eyes, even closed, processed these cues, allowing the mind to remain relaxed, yet alert in a way that supported deeper rest. Light also affected warmth subtly. A patch of sunlight during the day might linger on wood, slightly warming a favored nook for night's sleep. Even moonlight had a faint psychological effect, signaling that the world outside continued in its slow rhythm, while below deck, the ship and its crew moved together in harmony. As the pirates settled into their sleep, the dance of light and shadow became part of the tapestry of Resoft, gentle and continuously shifting. It accompanied the motion of the ship, the hum of the hull, and the warmth of shared bodies, creating an immersive, comforting environment where even the cold had its place. Above deck, the ship's sails and rigging were more than tools for movement. They influenced the nights below in subtle, almost imperceptible ways. The wind hummed through the lines and rigging, creating a chorus of soft whines, tinkles and creaks that filtered down into the sleeping quarters. Pirates became attuned to these sounds, using them as markers of both the ship's stability and the rhythm of rest. When the wind shifted, the sails adjusted automatically, tugging lightly at ropes that transmitted gentle vibrations through the deck and into the hold. Each signal was interpreted by the body subconsciously, a sway here, a pull there, a tug at a blanket or mat. Sleep adapted, bodies aligning with the smallest movements, muscles relaxing while remaining poised to respond if necessary. The sails themselves offered indirect warmth. By funneling wind in specific directions, they could reduce the chill that might otherwise sweep directly into gaps in the hull. Below deck, pirates felt the difference in air pressure, a subtle draft or calm pocket that could make one spot preferable to another for rest. Over time, experience taught them which corners were protected from wind shifts and which areas required tighter bundling in blankets or coiled rope padding. At night, even the rigging contributed a strange reassurance. The steady tension of ropes and the occasional soft clatter of pulleys reminded pirates that the ship was alive, moving as intended, and capable of holding them safely. Sleep and ship were intertwined, each relying on the other, the vessel's motions guiding rest, and the crew's vigilance ensuring the ship's continued stability. In these moments, the line between body and ship blurred. Muscles, blankets, and wool became extensions of rigging and deck, and the pirate's breath synchronized with the gentle song of ropes and sails. The cold still pressed at edges, but in the carefully orchestrated dance of motion, sound, and adaptation, sleep deepened, flowing as naturally as the ocean itself. Night after night at sea, the presence of familiar companions became a cornerstone of comfort. Pirates sleeping in the same hold, on the same stretch of deck, or in adjacent nooks developed an unspoken understanding. Each movement, breath, or shift of weight was anticipated and accommodated, creating a shared rhythm that reinforced warmth and security. A huddle of sailors below deck often formed naturally. Experienced crewers knew where to position themselves relative to others. Those more tolerant of cold took outer positions, while the weaker or younger members nestled toward the center, surrounded by layers of shared heat. Small touches a hand, brushing a shoulder as blankets shifted, a subtle nudge to make space, were gestures of care, though unspoken. These movements minimized heat loss and maintained comfort without disturbing sleep. Even the sounds of breathing mattered. The rise and fall of chest and shoulders provided a constant backdrop, a subtle reminder that the crew remained alive, attentive, and coordinated. Sleep became collective, synchronized to the hum of the hull, the sway of the ship, and the quiet assurance of companions nearby. Pirates also carried memories of past nights together. A creak in a plank might recall a storm endured shoulder to shoulder, or the faint smell of tar could evoke a calm evening after a long voyage. These shared experiences created emotional warmth that complemented physical heat, allowing the mind to relax more fully. Through the cold, the drafts, and the relentless motion of the sea, this network of human presence became essential. Sleep was never solitary. It was a communal act, a combination of instinct, adaptation, and trust. In the gentle proximity of familiar companions, pirates found the reassurance necessary to drift deeply into rest, even amid the vast, dark expanse of the medieval ocean. As darkness deepened, the weight of the night pressed gently against the ship and its crew. Outside, the sky stretched endlessly, a deep indigo pool scattered with faint stars, while the ocean mirrored the same infinite darkness, broken only by the soft white caps of waves. Below deck, pirates felt this weight as a quiet companion, a pressure that seemed to slow time and encourage the body toward stillness. The cold pressed in from the seams of the hull and the cracks between planks, but it carried a predictable rhythm. Each chill was countered by layers of wool, canvas, and coiled rope, by body heat, and by the subtle rise and fall of the ship. The mind, attuned to the patterns of night, let go of unnecessary vigilance. Muscles slackened, shoulders curved inward, and the body became a vessel for the slow, steady flow of rest. Even sounds were softened by the weight of darkness. The sloshing of water in the bilge, the distant creak of rigging above, the faint murmur of someone shifting in a blanket all became part of a muted symphony, harmonizing with the natural sway of the ship. Pirates learned to accept these noises, allowing them to become background rather than intrusion, lulling both body and mind into a deeper calm. Sleep, under this weight, was different from on land. It was adaptive, flowing with the rhythm of the ship and the sea. Dreams appeared in fragments, often mirroring the gentle rocking of the deck or the soft whisper of wind through sails. Even in moments of discomfort, cold seeping into fingers or toes, the body adjusted almost automatically, curling tighter, drawing a blanket closer, sharing warmth with a neighbor. In this delicate balance, the weight of night became a protective force. It guided pirates into sleep slowly and gently, holding them in place while the ship carried them through the darkness, wrapped in layers in motion, in the presence of others and the soft pulse of the ocean. Rest arrived like a tide, inevitable, soothing, and steady. Below deck, sound played a more vital role than most pirates realized. The creaks of timber, the gentle slap of water against the hull, and the soft sway of coiled ropes all blended into a constant, rhythmic background. Over time, these noises became not distractions but guides, signaling the steady motion of the ship and the safety of the moment. The body responded almost instinctively, syncing its breathing and small movements to these sounds, allowing warmth to build and muscles to relax. Even above distant footsteps or the occasional murmur of a sailor on watch reached the hold as muted echoes. Experienced pirates could interpret each sound, understanding whether a wave had shifted the deck, if the wind had tugged at a sail, or if another human presence moved nearby. This auditory awareness allowed them to sleep without fear, knowing the ship and crew were alive and responsive. Sleepers learned to let the sounds merge into the background, like a lullaby. The hum of rigging, the whisper of air through cracks, and the creak of shifting wood created a natural cadence. Each shift of the ship was mirrored by subtle adjustments in posture, a curling of a leg, a tilt of the shoulder, or a tightening of a blanket around the torso. These small, unconscious movements conserved heat while aligning the body with the ship's pulse. The cold was present, insistent, yet it became part of the soundscape. Each draft's arrival and retreat carried its own subtle rhythm, which pirates learned to recognize. Anticipating these movements allowed them to preempt discomfort, adjusting layers or shifting position without fully waking. By surrendering to this chorus of sound, pirates found a deep, restorative sleep. The mind let go, trusting the body and the ship to maintain equilibrium. In the soft symphony of motion and noise, the cold became manageable, the night gentle, and the ocean a quiet guardian rather than a threat. Even in the coldest stretches of the night, the gentle motion of the ship contributed an almost imperceptible warmth. As the vessel rose on a swell and then dipped into the trough of the next wave, the body responded automatically, muscles loosening, blood circulating more efficiently. This subtle warmth, born from movement rather than fire, helped pirates stave off the cold that pressed through their layers of wool and canvas. Sleeping close to the ship's center amplified this effect. Here, motion was gentler, more predictable, allowing the body to synchronize with the rhythm of the sea. Pirates adapted instinctively, curling slightly as the deck tilted, letting blankets slide just enough to trap pockets of air, or shifting arms and legs to conserve heat. Each adjustment was small, but collectively they maintained comfort through the hours of darkness. The ebb and flow of warmth also reinforced the mind's sense of calm. The rocking deck, the steady swish of water against the hull, and the hum of rigging created a consistent pattern that the brain could anticipate. Pirates relaxed into this rhythm, each breath timed with the sway, each heartbeat echoing the pulse of the ship. Sleep deepened, even as cold drafts slid along the edges of blankets or through cracks in the wood. Nearby, companions added to this effect. Shared body heat circulated gently through closely huddled groups, supplementing the warmth generated by motion. A shoulder against another's back, a side tucked into the curve of a friend, or overlapping blankets allowed heat to spread evenly. These small, instinctive connections created a cocoon of warmth that could carry a sailor through even the harshest nights. In the quiet interplay of motion, touch, and instinct, pirates discovered a subtle secret. The sea itself could warm them if they surrendered to its rhythm. In this harmony of body, ship, and ocean, sleep became restorative and enduring, carrying them safely through the night. Pirates thrived on routine, and nowhere was it more important than during sleep. Every night followed similar patterns, choosing a sheltered spot below deck, layering clothes and blankets, sharing warmth with companions, and listening to the ship's gentle hum. These rituals, repeated voyage after voyage, created a sense of security that the cold and darkness could not penetrate. The mind, conditioned by habit, knew what to expect. Hands reached automatically for folded blankets or coiled ropes. Feet tucked under layers without conscious thought. Even the anticipation of the night watch above its footsteps, its quiet vigilance became reassuring rather than disruptive. Pirates found peace in the predictability, letting the body and mind synchronize with the known rhythms of the ship and crew. Routine also allowed the body to conserve energy. When every action followed familiar patterns, less effort was required to adjust to drafts, the sway of the deck, or shifts in blankets. Heat remained where it was most needed, and sleep could arrive more fully. The repetition of these nightly tasks created an almost meditative state, softening the edges of discomfort and sharpening the subtle senses necessary for survival. Even the cold became less threatening through routine. When a draft slipped through a crack or water seeped faintly through the deck, the response was automatic. Adjust the blanket, curl a knee inward, shift closer to a neighbor. No conscious energy was wasted in panic or surprise. The body learned to negotiate with the environment, maintaining warmth and rest simultaneously. Through these small, repeated actions, the ship below deck became a sanctuary. The combination of familiar spaces, shared warmth, and predictable motion allowed pirates to rest deeply, even in a world dominated by wind, waves, and cold. In the quiet confidence of routine, sleep was not just possible, it became reliable, steady, and sustaining. Below deck, small sounds were never distractions, they were part of the fabric of sleep. The faint drip of water, the whisper of a rope sliding over a block, or the distant shuffle of boots above became markers of continuity, each one reassuring in its familiarity. Pirates learned to interpret these soft noises, distinguishing between harmless creaks and potential disturbances, allowing the mind to relax rather than remain tense. Even the breathing of nearby companions contributed to this auditory landscape. The rise and fall of chests, the occasional sigh or shift, created a rhythm that blended seamlessly with the hum of the ship. Pirates instinctively synchronized their own breathing with these sounds, deepening relaxation and preserving warmth. The collective presence, conveyed through subtle noises, reinforced safety and trust in the shared space. These small sounds also helped in anticipating motion. A groan from the hull, a tinkle from rigging above, or a gentle splash against the hull signaled changes in the ship's sway. Sleepers adjusted subtly, curling knees or shifting shoulders without fully waking. In this way, sound became both guide and companion, smoothing the path to restorative rest. Even the cold, which intruded at the edges, was softened by this auditory environment. Recognizing the rhythm of the ship and its sounds allowed the body to anticipate changes, respond efficiently, and maintain heat. The mind, free from surprise, drifted further into calm, while the body stayed aligned with the gentle sway of wood and water. In this space, sleep became layered physical warmth, shared presence, rhythmic motion, and sound interwoven into a protective cocoon. Each night, these elements combined to create an environment where even the most restless pirate could surrender fully, allowing the long hours to carry him safely toward dawn. Even in the bitter chill of the open sea, pirates discovered a subtle source of heat that required no wool, no fire, no shared blankets, their own breath. Curling the body slightly and drawing the collar of a shirt or blanket close to the face created a small pocket of warmth, filled with air that the body had already heated. Inhaling and exhaling slowly, the sailor could create a personal cocoon where each breath reinforced the fragile barrier against the cold. This technique worked best when combined with the gentle sway of the ship. As the vessel rose and fell with the waves, the body expanded and contracted slightly, allowing warm air to circulate around shoulders, arms, and torso. Tiny movements of hands or feet could trap heat more effectively, adjusting the pocket of air without disturbing rest. Even a simple tilt of the head or tuck of a knee helped conserve warmth, making the night more bearable. Shared breath also played a role. Pirates sleeping close together benefited from each other's exhalations. The warmth of air between bodies, though subtle, helped to maintain temperature in the gaps where blankets did not reach. Over time, the crew learned to position themselves strategically, creating an efficient network of heat that moved through the group like a quiet, living current. Breath, paired with motion, sound, and familiarity, became a tool of survival. Even as cold air pressed through cracks in the hull and chilled the edges of blankets, the warmth generated from these slow, steady breaths offered reassurance. It was an intimate, personal source of comfort, one that required no equipment and no preparation beyond the sailor's awareness and experience. In this way, sleep on a medieval pirate ship became a carefully orchestrated balance. The cold was never fully defeated, but its impact was softened by understanding, adaptation, and subtle techniques like the use of breath. Wrapped in layers, motion, and warm air, pirates could drift into deep, sustaining rest, carried safely through the long hours of night. Even in the deep quiet of night, the body remained responsive to its environment. Pirates learned that minor adjustments could make the difference between a restless, cold sleep and a night of steady rest. A shift of a shoulder, a tuck of a blanket, or a repositioning of a knee allowed heat to circulate efficiently, keeping extremities from growing numb and maintaining comfort without fully waking. These movements were almost imperceptible. Muscles remembered how to react instinctively to the rocking of the ship, to drafts sneaking through seams, or to the slight sag of a worn blanket. Each adjustment conserved warmth and prevented tension from building in joints and shoulders. The rhythm of subtle shifts became a silent dance between body and ship, ongoing throughout the night. Nearby companions influenced these adjustments as well. A slight nudge or a shared stretch of a blanket required a coordinated response, reinforcing trust and synchrony. Pirates learned to move in harmony, avoiding unnecessary disturbance while optimizing collective comfort. Even breathing adjusted slightly, rising and falling in sync with the motion and minor shifts of the group. The cold remained a persistent presence, but these small, intentional adjustments softened its effect. Over time, the body learned to anticipate discomfort, preemptively curling a toe, tucking a hand, or shifting an elbow to block a draft. By the time conscious awareness caught up, sleep had already resumed, uninterrupted. Through these subtle interactions with the body, companions, and ship, pirates discovered a hidden resilience. Each minor adjustment was a layer of protection, a method of conserving warmth, and a way to extend the restorative power of sleep. In the quiet, measured movements that passed almost unnoticed, the crew navigated the night as surely as the ship navigated the waves. There were moments during the night when the ship seemed to settle into a lull, a gentle calm between the rise and fall of waves. In these moments, stillness became a source of warmth and peace. Pirates learned that holding the body steady, resisting unnecessary movement, allowed heat to accumulate within blankets and layers, creating a cocoon that insulated them from the lingering cold. Stillness was not simply a lack of movement, it was deliberate. The body aligned with the slope of the deck, shoulders relaxed, and limbs positioned to conserve energy. Muscles that had tensed throughout the day loosened, and joints that had creaked from labor softened. In these pockets of stillness, the mind also slowed, drifting away from the worries of the voyage into a serene, almost dreamless rest. Even small sensations, the gentle brush of a companion's arm, the faint vibration of the ship responding to distant waves, the soft hum of water against the hull enhanced the comfort of stillness. Pirates became attuned to these cues, letting them guide micro-adjustments rather than abrupt movements. The ship and body worked in harmony, minimizing energy loss and maximizing warmth. The cold persisted, especially along the edges of blankets and sleeves, but stillness allowed the body to create internal heat more effectively. Breathing slowed, heart rate moderated, and the subtle pressure of layers pressed against the skin, holding warmth close. In this state, sleep deepened, flowing naturally with the rhythm of the ocean. Through the quiet strength of stillness, pirates discovered a profound resilience. Even on the coldest nights, amid the sway of the ship and the murmur of the sea, they could rest. Each breath, each gentle movement, each moment of acceptance built a sanctuary of warmth, allowing them to endure and recover, ready for the challenges that the dawn would inevitably bring. Even below deck, pirates surrounded themselves with small, familiar objects that offered unexpected comfort. Coiled ropes, worn wooden barrels, patches of sailcloth, or a trusted blanket became anchors in the shifting world of the ship. Each item carried texture, scent, and weight that were reassuring in the dark, cold hours of night. A rolled sail might serve as a pillow, a bundle of rope as extra cushioning under knees or elbows. Old barrels held warmth from the day's sunlight, slightly radiating it into nearby corners. Even the smell of tar-soaked wood, once sharp, became familiar and grounding, a sensory reminder that the ship was intact, and that the sailor had survived countless nights before this one. These objects also contributed to warmth. By strategically positioning themselves next to or around these items, pirates could block drafts, create barriers, or trap air pockets that preserved heat. Their placement was instinctive, learned over months and years of nights on deck and below. A well-chosen nook among barrels or coiled ropes could make a cold night manageable, even almost cozy. The tactile comfort was subtle but powerful. Fingers brushed over familiar textures as the body shifted slightly in sleep. Knees pressed into soft cloth or rope, elbows rested against smooth wood. These gentle contacts anchored the mind, reinforcing a sense of security and stability. Even in sleep, the hands, shoulders, and feet remembered these supports, instinctively adjusting to preserve warmth. Through these small, familiar objects, pirates created a personal microenvironment amid the unpredictable sea. Paired with layered clothing, shared body heat, and the rocking rhythm of the ship, these anchors allowed for sustained, restorative rest. In the quiet, dark hold, they became a silent support system, carrying sailors safely through the long, cold hours until dawn. Beneath the deck, the constant interaction of water and wood created a subtle rhythm that shaped the pirates' sleep. The gentle slosh of waves in the bilge, the low thrum of the hull pressing against the ocean, and the faint vibration of the ship riding each swell blended into a continuous, hypnotic cadence. These sounds were not intrusive, they were the heartbeat of the ship, steady and reassuring. Pirates, attuned to this rhythm, learned to synchronize their breathing and micro-movements with it. A gentle inhale matched a lift of the deck. A soft exhale coincided with a dip into a trough. These patterns allowed muscles to relax without the fear of sudden motion catching them unprepared. Heat, previously distributed unevenly by drafts or clothing, stabilized as bodies moved subtly in tune with the ship. The motion of water against wood was also psychologically comforting. Even when the cold pressed through seams and cracks, the predictable rhythm reminded pirates that the ship remained intact, riding each wave steadily. It was a tactile and auditory reassurance that their floating home was reliable, and that survival through the night was not just possible, but likely. For those resting near others, the rhythm spread subtly through shared blankets and bodies. The sway of one shoulder influenced another, the rise of a chest gently nudged a neighboring arm, and the warmth of collective presence flowed in time with the ship. Sleep became a shared, synchronized experience, both physical and emotional. In this interplay of water, wood, and body, pirates discovered a hidden harmony. Cold and darkness persisted, but they were softened by the constant pulse of the ocean and the vessel riding it. Drift and wake became one, and in this gentle, ceaseless rhythm, pirates found restorative sleep that carried them safely through the hours of night. As the night wore on and the watch above deck shifted or concluded, a deepened calm settled through the hold. Pirates who had been half awake, listening for the faintest disturbance, now felt the tension in their muscles dissolve. The certainty that vigilant eyes and ears remained outside allowed the body to fully relax, trusting both companions and the ship to navigate the dark waters. The air seemed to soften in these hours. The faint creaks and groans of the hull continued, but they blended seamlessly into the rhythm of sleep. Drafts became predictable, and cold that had nipped at fingers and toes now felt distant, manageable within layers of blankets, coiled rope, and shared body warmth. Each pirate found a favored position, curling, tucking, and settling into familiar patterns that maximized comfort without effort. The presence of companions became more subtle, but no less significant. Breathing, quiet movements, and small shifts were synchronized almost instinctively, maintaining warmth and minimizing disturbances. No words were spoken. Trust was inherent, woven through years of shared voyages. The physical closeness, coupled with the emotional reassurance of solidarity, deepened the sense of security and allowed sleep to become heavier, dream-filled, and restorative. Even the ship seemed to recognize this period of calm. Waves lapped against the hull with a measured patience, and the sway became softer, almost gentle. The sound of water, wood, and rigging created a steady background hum, a lullaby to guide the mind into deeper rest. Muscles loosened completely, limbs relaxed, and body heat spread naturally, filling spaces that had felt cold just hours before. In this tranquil stretch after the watch, pirates slept with a rare confidence. The night, vast and cold, had been tamed by familiarity, rhythm, and shared vigilance. Rest arrived, not suddenly, but gradually, flowing through the crew like a quiet tide, sustaining them for the hours yet to come. As the night deepened, the boundaries between consciousness and sleep began to blur. Pirates slipped slowly into dreams, each mind weaving fragments of the day, the sea, and memory into gentle, sometimes vivid tapestries. The ship's sway and the hushed chorus of creaks and whispers became part of the dreamscape, guiding images and sensations without startling the sleeper awake. Dreams often mirrored reality at sea, a rocking deck transformed into rolling hills. Distant waves became rivers, and lantern light danced as sunlight filtering through trees. Even the cold contributed. Fingers tucked under blankets might appear in dreams as paws curled under a fur coat, toes pressed against warm earth. These subconscious translations created a sense of comfort and continuity, integrating discomfort into the narrative of rest rather than disrupting it. Shared presence influenced the dream world as well. The faint sound of a companion shifting in sleep, a whispered sigh, or a breath brushing against a shoulder became part of the mental rhythm. These small cues offered reassurance, a reminder that the crew moved and rested together, and that the ship held them safely in its embrace. Even on stormier nights, dreams served a protective purpose. The body and mind processed the rocking, the sway, and the distant shouts of watchmen into patterns that felt manageable and coherent. Fear and cold were softened, transformed into narrative elements the subconscious could handle, allowing deep sleep to persist despite the challenges of the environment. Through these soft, shifting dreams, pirates experienced a quiet restoration, mind and body synchronized with the ship, the crew, and the surrounding sea. Each breath, each subtle movement, each shared warmth became woven into the fabric of rest, preparing the sailor for the next day's work while carrying him safely through the vast, dark hours of night. Blankets and canvas were more than simple coverings. They were a protective shield against the cold, drafts, and the creeping dampness of the ship. Pirates layered them carefully, creating insulated pockets that trapped heat close to the body. Each layer had a purpose: wool for warmth, canvas for blocking drafts, and coiled sailcloth or rope for padding against the uneven wood below. These coverings were adjusted subtly through the night. A knee might be tucked closer, a shoulder pulled under a flap of cloth, or a blanket shifted slightly to trap air. Each movement was automatic, learned through months and years of nights at sea. Even in the deepest sleep, the body remembered how to maintain warmth, conserving energy while allowing muscles and joints to relax fully. Shared blankets amplified the effect. 2 or 3 sailors might nestle together under a single layer, distributing heat naturally. The warmth of one body supplemented another, and minor shifts were absorbed gently, without disturbance. Over time, this collective strategy became second nature, a silent, cooperative method of survival that required no words. Canvas and sailcloth also carried familiarity. The texture, weight, and scent of these materials became comforting, a tactile reminder of safety and routine. Even the edges of rough or patched cloth provided a small barrier against drafts, reinforcing both physical and psychological warmth. Pirates learned to seek out these textures, nesting against familiar shapes that promised steadiness in the unpredictable night. In this way, blankets and canvas created a protective cocoon. They worked in harmony with layered clothing, body heat, and the subtle motion of the ship, allowing pirates to drift into deep, restorative sleep. Even when cold and darkness pressed at the edges, this soft shield offered comfort, security, and a gentle passage through the long hours of night. Below deck, familiar sounds guided pirates into deeper sleep. The creak of a timber settling, the soft splash of water against the hull, or the distant murmur of a sailor adjusting a blanket became predictable markers in the night. These noises, rather than interrupting rest, reassured the body and mind that the ship remained steady and that the night was passing as it should. Even the faintest sounds influenced micro-movements. A groan from a rope or a shift in a nearby sailor's position prompted small adjustments, curling a knee, tucking a hand, or leaning slightly without fully waking. These automatic responses maintained warmth, comfort, and balance, letting sleep continue uninterrupted despite the ever-present motion of the vessel. The rhythm of breathing, both individual and collective, blended seamlessly with these background sounds. Chests rose and fell in sync with the sway of the deck, while shared blankets and close proximity amplified subtle warmth. The result was a quiet orchestration of rest, where every sound, breath, and motion contributed to a continuous, protective pattern, even in moments of cold or draft. The guidance of these routine sounds allowed pirates to anticipate discomfort and respond gently. No sudden shifts were needed. The body learned to adapt with grace, conserving energy and retaining heat. The mind, soothed by predictability, drifted further into calm, and the subtle interplay of sound, warmth, and motion created an immersive, sleep-friendly environment. Through these small auditory cues, pirates experienced a deep, restorative rest. The night moved slowly and safely around them, each sound part of a silent rhythm that reinforced security and comfort. In this delicate balance, the crew slept as one, supported by the ship, each other, and the gentle cadence of life at sea. Companionship became a vital layer of warmth and security on cold nights at sea. Pirates, sleeping near one another, shared more than blankets. They shared body heat, a sense of vigilance, and the comfort of familiarity. Even the slightest touch, a shoulder brushing against another's arm or a knee tucked close, reinforced this protective cocoon, extending warmth through both physical and emotional connection. The presence of companions allowed pirates to relax more fully, knowing that others were awake above deck or nearby below provided reassurance, letting muscles soften and tension ease. Breathing, heartbeats, and small shifts aligned subtly with those around them, creating a collective rhythm that reinforced comfort. The motion of one body influenced another, ensuring warmth was distributed efficiently and minimizing the cold's intrusion. Companionship also shaped sleep patterns. Pirates instinctively arranged themselves in positions that maximized collective warmth. The more resilient took cold-occupied outer positions, while younger or more vulnerable crew members nestled closer to the center. Shared blankets, overlapping layers of wool, and strategically positioned coiled ropes enhanced this effect, forming a network of thermal protection that functioned silently throughout the night. Even in dreams, the sense of companionship persisted. The mind incorporated the presence of nearby sailors, translating their steady breathing, subtle movements, and warmth into subconscious reassurance. In this way, emotional and physical support merged, creating a deep, restorative environment where the harsh elements outside were softened by human connection. Through the gentle shield of companionship, pirates slept with a confidence born from shared experience. Cold, darkness, and the unpredictability of the sea were still present, but their impact was softened. Side by side, huddled and synchronized, the crew rested, sustained by trust, warmth, and the quiet strength of being together. The hull of the ship itself offered a subtle comfort, a silent support beneath the pirates' bodies. Its worn wooden planks, darkened by salt and time, provided both structure and a gentle, steady feedback from the ocean's movements. Lying against it, the body could sense the ship's rhythm, its rise with each swell, its dip into every trough, and adapt naturally. letting the motion guide muscles and joints into positions that conserved heat. Even the texture of the wood contributed to rest. Rough in some areas, smooth in others, it offered tactile cues that helped the mind orient itself in darkness. Pirates could find familiar knots, worn depressions, or slight curves in the planks, positioning themselves to maximize comfort. Over time, the body memorized these subtle patterns, making sleep more predictable and secure. The hull's presence also provided psychological reassurance. Each creak, each groan, each slight vibration was a reminder that the ship was alive, carrying them safely through the dark waters. Even when cold drafts sneaked through seams, the steady support beneath created a sense of stability, reducing tension and allowing warmth to build from layered clothing and shared body heat. Sleeping in contact with the hull reinforced the connection between body and vessel. Motion, touch, and rhythm combined, creating a gentle cocoon of security. The sea's vastness pressed outside, cold and infinite, but within this quiet interface between human and ship, pirates found a small, enduring sanctuary. Through the embrace of the hull, layered blankets, and the subtle warmth of companions, sleep deepened. Each rise and fall of the deck, each whisper of water, each creak of timber became part of a harmonious whole, carrying the crew safely through the long, silent hours of the night. Night after night, pirates discovered that repetition itself brought a quiet comfort. The motions of preparing for sleep, arranging blankets, coiling ropes, selecting a favored spot, adjusting layers became familiar rituals that soothed both body and mind. Each repetition reinforced a sense of control and predictability, even amidst the unpredictable motion of the ocean and the chill of the night. The body relied on this familiarity to conserve energy. Muscles learned the motions instinctively: a turn of the shoulder, a tuck of a knee, the precise overlap of a blanket layer. These repeated actions minimized heat loss, maintained comfort, and reduced the effort needed to settle into rest. Even in moments of unexpected draft or rolling waves, experience guided instinctive adjustments before conscious thought intervened. The mind, too, benefited from repetition. Familiar sounds, the hum of the hull, the sway of rigging, the breathing of companions, were anticipated rather than startling. Each night, these cues reinforced a sense of continuity and safety, allowing pirates to relax more fully and drift into restorative sleep with less interruption. Repetition extended to dreams as well. Patterns of past voyages, familiar sensations of the ship, and memories of calm or stormy nights emerged gently, forming a subconscious lullaby that carried the mind deeper into rest. The cold, while present, was softened by routine. Discomfort was anticipated and mitigated through practiced responses. Through the quiet assurance of repetition, pirates found resilience. Sleep became reliable, not because the night changed, but because they had learned to navigate it with practiced skill. In this layered harmony of ritual, warmth, motion, and shared presence, even the harshest nights were softened, allowing the crew to rest deeply and recover fully. The smells of the ship played a quiet, comforting role in sleep. Salt, tar, and the faint musk of worn wood mingled with the scent of woolen blankets and coiled rope, creating a sensory environment that was familiar and reassuring. Pirates learned to associate these scents with safety, routine, and the gentle rhythm of life at sea, allowing the mind to relax even when the cold pressed at the edges of blankets and layers. Certain scents guided movement and positioning as well. A faint whiff of tar might indicate the edge of a barrel or a dry patch of wood, prompting a slight shift in body placement. The smell of damp rope or coiled sailcloth provided tactile cues, signaling where warmth could be trapped. or where blankets could be tucked to block drafts. Over time, these olfactory markers became second nature, helping pirates navigate the hold even in darkness. Shared spaces amplified the effect. The combined sense of nearby companions, along with the layered smell of clothing and blankets, created a subtle warmth that extended beyond mere physical contact. Pirates instinctively sought out pockets of these familiar scents, letting them guide sleep positions and encourage rest. The body responded with a sense of ease, muscles loosening, breathing deepening, and heat retained more efficiently. Even dreams were shaped by smell. The subconscious translated familiar scents into comforting imagery: sunlight on a familiar deck, calm waves, or quiet nights by the harbor, integrating sensory reassurance into rest. Cold drafts and the vast darkness of the sea were softened by these invisible anchors, making sleep deeper and more restorative. Through the gentle guidance of scent, pirates found yet another layer of protection and comfort. Familiar smells reinforced security, warmth, and routine, creating a rich tapestry of sensory cues that allowed the body and mind to rest fully until the dawn slowly approached. In the close quarters of a pirate ship, proximity became a source of warmth and reassurance. Pirates often slept near one another, sharing limited space and pooling body heat to fend off the night's chill. The closeness of companions, even in silence, provided subtle psychological comfort, a sense of safety, connection, and continuity that reinforced deep, restorative sleep. The physical benefits of proximity were immediate. Shoulders pressed lightly together, knees tucked near a neighbor, and overlapping blankets formed a network of warmth that moved naturally with the ship's sway. When the deck tilted with a swell or dipped into a trough, bodies shifted in synchrony, maintaining comfort while conserving heat. Even unconscious micro-movements were guided by this shared rhythm, ensuring that rest was continuous and largely undisturbed. Psychologically, the presence of others served as a quiet anchor. Familiar breathing patterns, occasional sighs, and soft shifts became reassuring signals that the crew and the ship were functioning, allowing the mind to let go of tension. Trust was implicit. Each sailor knew that those nearby would adjust to movements without disrupting sleep, creating a cooperative environment of shared care. The proximity also shaped sleep positions. Cold-tolerant sailors often took outer positions, forming natural shields for those more sensitive to drafts. Blankets overlapped strategically, and coiled ropes or folded sailcloth added padding where needed. This thoughtful arrangement, honed by experience, ensured that the entire group remained protected through long, cold nights. In this quiet, intimate alignment, pirates found a deep sense of security. Cold, darkness, and motion became manageable when met with shared warmth and coordinated instinct. Side by side, they drifted into slumber, cradled by proximity, rhythm, and the gentle, invisible support of one another. Even the smallest changes in temperature shaped sleep aboard a medieval pirate ship. A subtle gust through a crack in the hull, a shift in wind above deck, or the natural cooling of the night air created moments of mild discomfort that the body instinctively countered. Pirates learned to recognize these shifts and adjust, hooking limbs closer, repositioning blankets, or curling into companions without fully waking or breaking the rhythm of rest. The interplay of temperature and motion was especially important. As the ship rocked with each swell, heat moved naturally around the body, rolling slightly with a dip in the deck, or tilting with a rise allowed warmth to circulate, preventing fingers or toes from growing numb. Combined with layered clothing and coiled rope or sailcloth for padding, these small adjustments created a dynamic system for temperature management. Shared warmth amplified this effect. Sailors huddled together naturally created pockets of heat that countered drafts and the persistent chill. Micro-adjustments among companions, an arm shifted slightly, a shoulder nudged helped distribute warmth evenly, maintaining comfort for the group as a whole. These instinctive behaviors ensured that even on the coldest nights, sleep could continue uninterrupted. The mind, attuned to subtle cues, also benefited. Recognizing temperature changes as predictable and manageable reduced anxiety and tension, allowing the body to relax fully. Breathing slowed, muscles softened, and heat remained contained within blankets and layers, creating an immersive cocoon of comfort. Through this awareness of subtle temperature shifts, pirates mastered the delicate balance of cold, motion, and warmth. Even in the harsh environment of the medieval sea, sleep became possible, deep and restorative, aided by instinct, experience, and the quiet cooperation of the crew. Even below deck, the presence of the moon and stars influenced sleep on a medieval pirate ship. Soft light filtering through small cracks, portholes, or above-deck openings traced faint patterns across planks, barrels, and coiled ropes. This gentle illumination provided orientation in darkness, helping pirates position themselves comfortably without fully waking or fumbling for blankets and layers. The subtle glow also shaped psychological comfort. Moonlight and starlight, even when indirect, became markers of the night's progression, a quiet reassurance that hours were passing steadily and the ship remained safe. These natural cues, combined with the familiar hum of the hull and the rhythmic sound of water against the ship, created a layered environment of guidance, warmth, and calm. Pirates adapted instinctively to these changes in light. A flicker through a crack might prompt a slight shift in posture or blanket arrangement, allowing air pockets to retain warmth or drafts to be blocked. Over time, bodies learned to respond to these subtle visual cues almost unconsciously, further optimizing comfort and conserving heat. Even dreams were influenced by the interplay of faint light and darkness. Soft illumination might weave into subconscious imagery, translating moonbeams into distant horizons, gentle waves, or familiar ports. The presence of light became a silent companion, reinforcing safety, continuity, and the gentle passage of time. Through the subtle influence of moon and stars, pirates found yet another layer of support for restorative sleep. Light became part of the sensory tapestry alongside sound, motion, warmth, and companionship, creating an immersive cocoon where even the chill and vastness of the medieval sea were softened. Even below deck, air moved continuously, carrying both cold and subtle freshness that affected sleep. Pirates learned to sense these flows, adjusting blankets, layers, or body position to minimize discomfort and conserve warmth. A small draft might be welcomed in the stuffy hold during mild nights, while on colder evenings the body instinctively curled inward or pressed against coiled sailcloth to shield against the intrusion. The motion of air was often predictable. As the ship swayed, waves above created gentle currents that pressed through seams and cracks. Pirates who had spent nights aboard learned to anticipate these breezes, creating pockets of insulation or leaning subtly toward companions to maintain warmth. The body, conditioned by repetition, adapted almost automatically, preserving heat without breaking the rhythm of sleep. Breathing became synchronized with these flows. Slow, deep inhales and exhales stabilized body temperature, while micro-movements adjusted posture to balance warmth and air circulation. Even subtle changes in air pressure or humidity were integrated unconsciously, guiding comfort and aiding deep, restorative sleep. The mind also interpreted air movement as part of the ship's ongoing rhythm. Gusts of wind, the creak of timbers responding to pressure, or the soft whistle of ropes overhead were no longer disruptions. They became cues, reassuring the sailor that the vessel was functioning and that the crew and ship remained safe. Through the gentle flow of air and drafts, pirates added another layer to their nightly defense against cold. Combined with blankets, shared warmth, motion, sound, and familiarity, these subtle adjustments allowed sleep to remain deep, secure, and sustaining, even in the vast, unpredictable environment of the medieval sea. Even when pirates slept deeply, the presence of a vigilant watch above deck provided a subtle reassurance. Though unseen, the knowledge that others were attentive to the sails, the horizon, and potential dangers allowed the crew below to relax completely. Each footstep, distant murmur, or faint sound of movement carried a sense of continuity, signaling that the ship and its occupants remained protected through the night. This reassurance influenced both body and mind. Muscles that might have tensed unconsciously loosened, shoulders and backs curved naturally against blankets, and breathing deepened. The mind, freed from constant vigilance, drifted into dream-filled or dreamless sleep, carrying the sense that the world outside remained in order and under watchful eyes. Pirates integrated these cues into subtle adjustments. A soft creak or muted shuffle indicated activity above, prompting a micro-adjustment of a blanket or a shift in position that optimized warmth without fully waking. Over time, these small reactions became automatic, preserving comfort while allowing the mind to remain at ease. Even the sounds of the ship, the gentle slap of water against the hull, the hum of rigging, the creak of timbers took on an additional layer of meaning. They became indicators that the watch was active, that sails responded to wind, and that the vessel moved safely through the night. These cues reinforced trust, rhythm, and security, creating an environment where sleep could deepen naturally. Through the quiet reassurance of the watch, pirates rested with confidence. Cold motion and the vast expanse of sea were mitigated by the certainty of vigilance. In this harmony of sound, motion, warmth, and watchfulness, sleep flowed uninterrupted, nurturing both body and mind for the coming day. Years at sea taught pirates to sleep in harmony with the ship's habitual motions. Each swell, each roll, each gentle dip became part of an almost imperceptible rhythm that guided posture and micro-adjustments throughout the night. The body learned to anticipate these movements. A tilt of the deck prompted a subtle curl of the knees, a shift in shoulder placement, or a small repositioning of blankets, all while maintaining warmth and comfort. This habitual motion also affected breathing. As the ship rose on a wave, inhalation deepened. As it dipped, exhalation lengthened. Pirates synchronized unconsciously with this ebb and flow, creating a natural, restorative cadence that eased muscles and joints into relaxation. Even in the presence of cold drafts, these subtle adjustments minimized discomfort, preserving energy and heat throughout the long night. Shared experience enhanced this synchronization. Crewmates sleeping nearby responded to each other's micro-movements, gently adjusting positions to maintain collective warmth. The sway of one body influenced another, creating a subtle network of motion that kept the entire group comfortable and balanced on the shifting deck. Beyond physical effects, habitual motion provided psychological reassurance. The body's familiarity with the ship's rhythm reduced tension and stress, reinforcing trust in both the vessel and companions. Sleep deepened as the mind surrendered to this predictable, comforting motion, allowing dreams to weave seamlessly with the gentle sway and hum of the sea. Through the subtle influence of habitual motion, pirates learned to transform the ship's unpredictable environment into a synchronized system of rest. Cold, dark, and rolling seas were softened by instinct, experience, and shared adaptation, creating nights of deep, enduring, and restorative sleep. Throughout the night, familiar sounds became anchors of comfort for pirates below deck. The rhythmic drip of water in the bilge, the subtle creak of timbers under the ship's sway, and the gentle rustle of coiled ropes all provided cues that the ship was steady and secure. Over time, these noises were no longer disturbances. They were signals that allowed sailors to relax fully, knowing the vessel and crew remained safe. Even small, seemingly inconsequential sounds played a role. The faint sigh of a companion shifting in sleep, the brushing of fabric as blankets settled, or the soft clatter of tools left nearby offered reassurance, integrating seamlessly into the auditory environment of the hold. Pirates learned to anticipate these noises, letting the body adjust, preemptively tucking a hand, curling a knee, or repositioning a shoulder without fully waking. The collective presence of the crew enhanced the effect of sound. Breathing patterns synchronized unconsciously. The gentle overlap of blankets provided subtle warmth, and minor movements were absorbed by others nearby. Together, these small cues created a comforting rhythm that guided both body and mind into deeper sleep. Even dreams were shaped by these familiar sounds. The subconscious translated creaks, drips, and sighs into coherent patterns, weaving them into dream imagery that reinforced safety and continuity. Cold, motion, and darkness were softened, absorbed into a sensory environment that nurtured rest and restoration. Through the quiet power of familiar sounds, pirates discovered a hidden support system. Each noise, however small, became part of a protective symphony, guiding micro-movements, conserving warmth, and sustaining deep, restorative sleep throughout the long night at sea. Memory became an invisible comfort beneath the deck, guiding pirates through the cold, dark hours. Familiar routines, past voyages, and remembered nights of warmth and safety all resurfaced in subtle ways, creating a sense of continuity and reassurance. Even in the middle of a stormy night, recollections of previous calm nights allowed the mind to relax, reinforcing the body's ability to conserve warmth and remain still. These memories shaped instinctive behaviors. A sailor recalled the best way to tuck a blanket or position a coiled rope from experience, automatically adjusting posture and layers without conscious thought. Muscle memory worked in tandem with mental recollection, optimizing comfort while conserving energy. The repetition of such remembered actions created a quiet rhythm that guided sleep and minimized the intrusion of cold or drafts. Shared memory also played a role. Pirates huddled together carried the collective knowledge of many nights at sea, where to position oneself for warmth, how to adjust to swaying decks, and how to use companions for mutual heat. This unspoken wisdom circulated through proximity and touch, reinforcing confidence and safety. Even dreams were shaped by memory. Familiar sensations of the sea, the sway of the ship, or the smell of tar and salt blended seamlessly with the subconscious mind's recollections, turning even hardship into comforting narratives. Cold and discomfort were reframed, integrated into a familiar, predictable environment. Through the subtle influence of memory, pirates discovered that experience itself was a layer of protection. Mind, body, and habit intertwined, guiding them into deep, restorative sleep. Even amid the vast, dark, and cold expanse of the medieval sea, the knowledge of past nights offered security, warmth, and resilience. Breath became one of the most subtle yet powerful tools pirates used to endure cold nights at sea. By slowing inhalations and exhalations, they could regulate body temperature, conserve energy, and deepen relaxation. Curling slightly, and drawing the chest closer to blankets or a companion allowed warm air to circulate within small pockets, creating an invisible layer of insulation. Controlled breathing also aligned naturally with the ship's motion. As the deck rose on a swell, a long inhale synchronized with the gentle lift. As it dipped, an exhale followed. This rhythm encouraged the body to move subtly in time with the vessel, maintaining balance, comfort, and heat without disrupting sleep. Even micro-adjustments of hands, knees, or shoulders were coordinated with this pattern, making the environment feel stable despite the swaying ocean above. The practice of mindful breathing also reinforced mental calm. Pirates' awareness of their own respiration reduced tension and quieted intrusive thoughts about storms, cold drafts, or distant threats. The mind accepted the predictability of air, motion, and warmth, allowing the body to rest more fully. This internal rhythm complemented external rhythms, the creak of timbers, the swish of water, and the shared breathing of companions, creating a layered, immersive environment for deep, restorative sleep. Even dreams were influenced by breath. Slow, measured inhalations and exhalations became part of subconscious imagery, blending with sensations of warmth, familiar textures, and gentle motion. Cold became manageable, drafts were softened, and the mind rested in tandem with the body, paired with warmth, rhythm, and familiarity. These quiet visual cues helped create a layered cocoon, supporting deep, restorative sleep in the long, cold hours of the medieval sea. As the night deepened, the familiarity of routine became a quiet, almost magical comfort for pirates below deck. Every movement, from arranging blankets to coiling ropes or tucking limbs close, had been repeated countless times. These rituals, simple yet deliberate, created a rhythm that guided both body and mind into restorative sleep. Routine shaped instinctive behavior. Muscles remembered the best ways to conserve warmth, curling knees, adjusting shoulders, repositioning blankets, while the mind anticipated the ship's motion, the sway of waves, and the gentle creaks of timber. No energy was wasted on surprise or tension. Instead, every action flowed naturally, reinforcing security and comfort. Companions reinforced these routines. Crewmates instinctively synchronized movements, shifting together when the ship rolled, overlapping blankets to share warmth, or adjusting positions to accommodate one another. This collective choreography ensured the entire group remained comfortable and insulated against the cold, creating a shared cocoon of warmth and trust. Even dreams were shaped by routine. Familiar sensations of the ship, habitual sounds, and the memory of past nights blended into subconscious imagery, turning discomfort into narrative and cold into manageable patterns. The repetition of these experiences allowed sleep to deepen effortlessly, guided by instinct and memory. Through the subtle magic of familiar routines, pirates discovered that repetition itself was a source of protection and comfort. Even in the unpredictable, chilly environment of the medieval sea, the predictability of habit nurtured a sense of safety, facilitating restorative, uninterrupted sleep for both body and mind. Pirates often found their most restful sleep in the hidden corners of the ship. Narrow spaces between barrels, tucked-away areas along the hull, and small alcoves beneath decks became secret shelters from drafts and motion. These corners offered physical protection, allowing sailors to press against solid wood or coiled ropes, conserving warmth and finding stability in the rolling vessel. The tactile security of these corners was vital. Leaning against smooth timber or cushioning a knee with coiled sailcloth created micro-pockets of comfort. Every curve, every surface became part of a silent guide, shaping body posture, helping retain heat. and minimizing exposure to cold drafts. Even subtle shifts within these spaces were absorbed by surrounding objects, preventing disturbance to sleep. Psychologically, corners provided a sense of enclosure and safety. Being partially enclosed reinforced a feeling of security, reducing anxiety and allowing the mind to release tension. Familiar textures, consistent smells of tar, salt, and worn wood, and the proximity of companions all contributed to this protective environment. Even the subtle motion of the ship became more manageable in corners. The surrounding structure absorbed sway and creaks, allowing the body to rest in rhythm with the vessel rather than being buffeted by it. Sleep deepened as comfort and stability reinforced one another, integrating warmth, motion, and shelter into a restorative experience. Through these hidden corners, pirates discovered intimate sanctuaries on their floating homes. Even amid cold nights, rolling seas, and darkness, these small spaces offered layered protection, physical, emotional, and sensory, allowing sleep to flow deeply and uninterrupted. In the deep hours of night, silence itself became a comforting companion for pirates below deck. The absence of loud activity, punctuated only by gentle creaks, distant water sounds, and soft breathing, created a peaceful environment that encouraged deep, restorative sleep. This shared silence bound the crew together, a collective acknowledgement of rest and safety. The body responded naturally to this calm. Muscles loosened, shoulders relaxed, and breathing slowed as the mind recognized the absence of immediate threats. Even micro-adjustments, tucking a knee, shifting slightly under a blanket, or leaning against a coiled rope, were executed in harmony with the quiet, preserving warmth and comfort without disturbing the surrounding crew. Silence also reinforced awareness of subtle cues. Tiny creaks, the whisper of shifting blankets, or a companion's faint sigh became reassuring markers rather than distractions. Pirates learned to interpret these soft sounds, allowing instinctive adjustments that maintained equilibrium, body heat, and gentle synchronization with the ship's motion. Psychologically, the shared quiet offered reassurance. Each sailor knew that others were present, resting nearby, and that the ship was steady. This implicit trust reduced anxiety and allowed the mind to drift into dream-filled or dreamless sleep, carried by the rhythm of breath, the gentle sway of the deck, and the comforting presence of companions. Through the gentle bond of shared silence, pirates discovered another layer of protection and support. The absence of noise became a positive force, reinforcing warmth, safety, and security, and allowing the crew to rest deeply, embraced by the steady, soothing rhythm of the medieval sea. Even in the stillest moments of night, subtle micro-movements played a critical role in maintaining warmth and comfort. A slight shift of the shoulder, a gentle tuck of the arm, or the curling of toes could redistribute heat, trap air pockets in blankets, and prevent numbness in extremities. Pirates learned to perform these adjustments instinctively, often without fully waking, creating a quiet, ongoing dance of comfort. These small motions worked in harmony with the ship's sway. As the deck rose and fell with each swell, a slight roll or tilt of the body allowed warmth to circulate naturally, while coiled ropes, blankets, and companions absorbed and reflected heat back toward the body. Over time, sailors became attuned to this rhythm, letting their movements align seamlessly with the motion of the ship. Micro-movements also enhanced shared warmth. Subtle adjustments of overlapping blankets, a nudge toward a neighboring shoulder, or curling closer to companions created continuous thermal exchange, helping the crew collectively fend off the chill. These instinctive, gentle interactions ensured that even on the coldest nights, sleep could remain uninterrupted. Psychologically, the awareness of micro-movements offered reassurance. The body felt responsive, prepared, and protected, even in darkness and cold. Sleep deepened as the mind accepted that minor actions were sufficient to maintain comfort, creating a sense of control in an otherwise unpredictable environment. Through the warmth of micro-movements, pirates discovered the delicate balance of instinct, body, and environment. Each subtle shift reinforced comfort, preserved heat, and allowed restorative sleep to flow steadily, carrying the crew safely through the long, cold hours of the medieval sea. Touch, even the subtlest kind, became a quiet source of reassurance and warmth aboard a pirate ship. The brush of a companion's arm, the press of his shoulder, or the shared weight of overlapping blankets transmitted both heat and a sense of security. Pirates learned to sense these gentle connections in sleep, adjusting slightly to maximize warmth without disturbing their neighbors. The tactile environment extended beyond human contact. Coiled ropes, folded sails, and the worn textures of wooden barrels offered consistent points of pressure and support. Resting against these familiar surfaces provided micro-cues that guided body positioning, helped retain heat, and offered a sense of stability in the ever-moving hold. Shared touch reinforced rhythm and collective comfort. When the ship tilted, a slight nudge from a neighbor or the shift of overlapping blankets distributed warmth evenly. These small, unconscious exchanges created a network of support that made even the coldest nights bearable, allowing sleep to deepen without interruption. Psychologically, familiar touch reduced tension and anxiety. Knowing that others were nearby, that the ship remained solid, and that blankets and coiled rope could cushion or shield, allowed the mind to relax fully. Sleep flowed in tandem with physical reassurance, weaving together warmth, security, and comfort. Through the gentle influence of familiar touch, pirates cultivated another layer of resilience. Combined with blankets, companions, habitual movements, and rhythmic sway, touch became a silent guide through the long, dark, cold hours of the medieval sea, sustaining deep, restorative rest. Even subtle, repeated sounds became a source of comfort for pirates sleeping below deck. The gentle slap of water against the hull, the rhythmic creak of timbers, and the soft rustle of coiled ropes or shifting blankets created an ambient symphony that guided sleep. Over time, these familiar noises were anticipated rather than startling, allowing sailors to drift deeper into rest. Micro-adjustments often accompanied these sounds. A slight shift in a blanket, the curling of a knee, or a gentle turn of the shoulder responded instinctively to creaks, splashes, or swaying motion. These small movements preserved warmth and comfort, maintaining the delicate balance needed for restorative sleep without breaking the rhythm of rest. The collective presence of the crew amplified the calming effect. Coordinated breathing, overlapping blankets, and subtle shared movements created a synchronized environment where each sound was part of a larger, reassuring pattern. Sleep became not only possible but deeply restorative, supported by the shared rhythm of the ship and its inhabitants. Psychologically, these routine sounds reinforced security and continuity. The mind recognized patterns in the night water lapping, wood settling, companions breathing, which reduced anxiety and promoted relaxation. Even in moments of cold or minor discomfort, the predictability of the auditory environment helped maintain calm, allowing the body to remain warm and still. Through the soft reassurance of routine sounds, pirates discovered an invisible anchor that sustained sleep. Each creak, rustle, and splash became part of a comforting framework, harmonizing with touch, warmth, movement, and familiarity to carry the crew gently through the long hours of night. Even without words, the shared presence of companions became one of the most comforting aspects of sleep aboard a pirate ship. The knowledge that others were near, breathing steadily, shifting subtly, and nesting close under blankets or against coiled ropes created a quiet sense of security and warmth. This proximity allowed each sailor to relax fully, trusting in both the crew and the vessel. Physical closeness amplified heat. Overlapping blankets, shoulders pressed together, and arms tucked near neighbors created continuous thermal exchange. Even small, unconscious movements, shifting slightly with the ship's sway or curling into a coiled rope, helped preserve warmth for the individual and the group. The hold became a network of bodies working together, instinctively distributing heat where it was most needed. The presence of others also reinforced psychological comfort. Familiar breathing rhythms, the soft whisper of a shift, and the gentle press of a shoulder reminded sailors that the crew remained vigilant and the ship remained stable. Tension melted, muscles relaxed, and the mind surrendered to the soothing rhythm of rest, blending seamlessly with dreams. Even in the darkest, coldest corners, shared presence created a protective cocoon. The combination of human warmth, layered blankets, and familiarity with the ship's motion ensured sleep remained deep and restorative. Emotional reassurance and physical comfort intertwined, allowing the crew to endure the night and awaken renewed for the day ahead. Through the warmth of shared presence, pirates discovered a profound layer of resilience. Side by side, huddled and synchronized, the crew slept as one, carried gently through the long, cold hours of the medieval sea. The ship itself became a subtle lullaby for pirates below deck. Its continuous movement, the rise and fall of each swell, the gentle sway of the masts above, the low hum of rigging and water, created a rhythm that guided the body and mind into deeper sleep. Even in cold or darkness, this natural cadence became predictable, almost hypnotic, allowing sailors to relax fully. Pirates adapted instinctively to the ship's rhythm. A tilt in the deck prompted a minor shift of the body, a curling of knees, or the adjustment of blankets, all done without conscious effort. These movements preserved warmth, maintained comfort, and aligned with the subtle sway of the vessel, reinforcing a quiet harmony between body and environment. Shared synchronization enhanced the effect. Crew members sleeping nearby responded unconsciously to one another and to the ship's motion, creating a gentle network of movement and heat. Overlapping blankets, coiled ropes, and the press of shoulders combined to form micro-pockets of insulation, ensuring that even the coldest night remained manageable. Psychologically, the ship's rhythm offered reassurance. Familiar motions signaled stability, continuity, and safety. Even dreams were shaped by this sway, blending subconscious imagery with the gentle pulse of the sea, turning potential discomfort into a soothing backdrop for rest. Through the gentle influence of the ship's rhythm, pirates discovered that motion itself could be restorative. Sway, creak, and hum merged with warmth, touch, and companionship, creating an immersive cocoon of comfort that carried the crew safely and peacefully through the night. Darkness, though often cold and intimidating, became a quiet ally for pirates seeking sleep. The absence of harsh light allowed eyes to rest and mind to relax, turning attention inward toward warmth, breath, and body sensations. Even faint glimmers of moonlight or lantern glow were softened by familiar shadows, creating a comforting interplay of light and dark that guided positioning and micro-adjustments without disturbance. The tactile environment complemented darkness. Familiar textures, blankets, coiled ropes, folded sails, and the bodies of companions became anchors for touch and orientation. Pirates instinctively sought these points of reference, tucking limbs or leaning gently against them, preserving heat and maintaining comfort as the ship swayed. Psychologically, darkness encouraged trust in routines, companions, and the vessel itself. The mind released tension as it recognized that the crew remained nearby. The ship remained stable, and the cold could be managed with instinctive adjustments. Even the faint creaks of the hull or whisper of water became reassuring cues, woven into the subconscious awareness of safety. Dreams were enriched by darkness. The mind translated absence of light into immersive narratives, blending memory, sensation, and imagination. Cold and swaying motion was softened, fear was subdued, and sleep deepened into restorative rest, carried by warmth, companionship, and familiarity. Through the subtle comfort of darkness, pirates found another layer of security, combined with warmth, touch, motion, and routine. Darkness became not a threat, but a gentle companion, helping the crew rest fully, peacefully, and safely through the long medieval night. Even in the deepest hours of night, pirates sensed the slow, imperceptible approach of dawn, the faint light gradually creeping through cracks, the subtle change in the wind, and the softening of the night air, all hinted at the coming day. These early signs, almost unnoticed, provided reassurance, a promise that the long hours of darkness and cold would eventually yield to warmth and activity. Pirates adjusted instinctively. Blankets were shifted slightly, positions rearranged for comfort, and limbs stretched minimally to anticipate the change in temperature. The mind, attuned to these subtle cues, relaxed further, knowing that rest had carried them safely through the night, and that the protective layers of blankets, companions, and familiar routines remained intact. Shared awareness enhanced calm. Crew members sensed each other's presence through touch, breath, and micromovements, reinforcing the unspoken bond that had guided them through darkness. Even the ship seemed to prepare, its rhythm steady, responding to the shifting tide and wind with reassuring consistency. Dreams began to blend with reality, the faint glow of dawn intertwined with remembered images, gentle motion, and warmth, creating a seamless transition from sleep to waking. The subconscious prepared for activity while allowing the body to linger in the final moments of restorative slumber. Through the quiet assurance of dawn's approach, pirates experienced a subtle yet profound comfort. The night, with all its cold, motion, and darkness, had been navigated safely. The promise of a new day allowed minds and bodies to ease gently from sleep, carrying with them the warmth, security, and resilience cultivated over long hours of rest. As the first light of morning crept softly through the ship's cracks and portholes, pirates stirred gently within their protective layers of blankets, coiled ropes, and companions' warmth. The cold of night gradually gave way to the subtle, invigorating chill of dawn, which, though brisk, was tempered by the cocoon of shared presence. Layered clothing and instinctive adjustments honed over countless nights. Micro-movements began to synchronize with the new day. Knees stretched, shoulders rolled, and fingers flexed, all without suddenness, preserving the warmth built through careful positioning. Even the sway of the ship seemed gentler now, as if recognizing the transition from deep night to the soft light of morning, carrying the crew toward wakefulness with ease. Psychologically, the first hints of daylight offered reassurance. The horizon promised continuity, the ship remained steady, and the companions nearby still provided warmth and familiarity. The mind, having drifted through dreams shaped by cold, motion, and tactile cues, now embraced reality without shock, flowing seamlessly from the restorative rest of night into the alertness needed for the day's labor. Even the smells of the ship, the salt, tar, and faint musk of worn wood, blended with the morning air, signaling safety, routine, and readiness. Each breath carried subtle warmth, reinforcing the sense of resilience cultivated during hours of night-long sleep. The crew arose slowly, savoring the gentle transition from darkness to light, from rest to activity, carrying with them the comfort of their shared, quiet journey through the long, cold night. Through this final stage, pirates completed the cycle of night. Warmth, companionship, rhythm, routine, and sensory familiarity had guided them safely through hours of cold, motion, and darkness. Now restored and steady, they emerged into morning with resilience, ready to face the demands of life at sea, carrying the quiet lessons of survival and comfort that only the night could teach. Thank you for joining this voyage into the hidden world of Pirates' Nights. As you prepare to rest, let the gentle rhythms, warmth, and comforting routines of the story guide your own sleep. Remember the power of presence, the comfort of routine, and the subtle reassurance of familiar surroundings. They can turn even the coldest, darkest moments into restorative rest. If you enjoyed this story, please like, subscribe, and comment below. Share where you're watching from, whether the US, Europe, Canada, or elsewhere, and what time it is there. Your presence continues the journey and brings life to these tales of history, survival, and human resilience. Now, close your eyes, take a deep breath, and allow yourself to drift gently into the peaceful embrace of sleep, carrying the quiet strength of the pirate's night with you.